Welcome to Rant on Reels. I'm Michael Fooch.
And I'm Batman, also known as Xavier Barnett.
Today on the podcast, we will be reviewing Longshot, The Intruder, and we will be giving you our top 10 favorite Marvel movies of the MCU.
Yeah, my favorite. I can't wait to deliver my top 10 favorite MCU movies.
You've been waiting for this for months.
Yes, I have. And let's get it done. But first, before we get to that, I want to tell you guys, please like and subscribe. We're on iTunes, YouTube, and we're also on the Spotify, the one where you listen to music. You can also listen to podcasts, so don't forget to listen to us on there. And if you agree with and don't forget to comment your top 10 Marvel movies as well. We'd love to hear what you guys think. Right?
Right, definitely. We always like comments, specifically ones that tell everyone that
That
tell
Mike's an
Xavier that
idiot.
tell Xavier
What?
that he's the idiot.
No. You.
No. All right, Xavier, how's your week been?
My week's been good. There's a lot of news.
Before we
week.
get into news,
I don't care about your week. I care about the news. This is a news podcast.
No, it's not. It's a movie podcast.
About news for movies.
No, it's about movies that we've seen.
Okay, fine.
But that's kind of what I want to
What's
talk
the
about.
memo?
That's kind of the whole thing I wanted to chat about. Like,
Okay, let's
I've been
chat.
feeling like the entire week, all I've been doing is digesting Endgame.
I've been digesting Endgame, but I'm not going to lie to you. There's been something else I've been digesting too, and that is Game of Thrones. So I've been kind of juggling between the two.
Yeah, that's fair. But I want to talk a little bit about Endgame. So I want to just throw a spoiler alert at this point for Endgame. So jump ahead about 5 minutes in the podcast if you don't want an Endgame spoiler. We good? Perfect. So I've been thinking about this for a while, and Jerry was talking about like, oh, how could Captain America lift Mjolnir? It makes no sense. It's so heavy.
It's not heavy.
That's what I said. But then I got to thinking. He's like, but he couldn't move it in, Age of Ultron. And I got to thinking about myself, and I'm like, I think I know why.
Why?
Captain America was a bad boy. He wasn't worthy.
Why wasn't he worthy in the Age of
He
Ultron?
was a liar.
What did he lie about?
He was lying to Tony Stark for a good year and a half, maybe 2 years.
What did he lie? That Bucky was his best friend?
That Bucky killed his parents. He knew it. We found this out in Civil War. So he was lying about certain things to the other Avengers, so he wasn't worthy at the time.
Oh.
What do you think of that theory?
That's a pretty good theory. I like that.
And then after the fact that he's now come
Told the
clean, he's
truth,
buried the hatchet
had
with
the
everyone.
closure.
Now he's completely worthy.
Okay.
What do you think of my theory?
Pretty good theory. Of course you have that theory. Of course you have that theory for Cap because you love him so much.
I'm not gonna lie. I still dream about him holding the Mjolnir hammer. Is that kind of sad?
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
I think you need help.
Speaking of Endgame, I think the only news that we really need to talk about, that
Whoa.
matters, is Endgame. That's everything. Endgame is
Okay.
shattering box office record. It has been out 10 days, and it's already made $2.1 billion worldwide.
It's 2.2 actually.
No, it's 2.1.
It's 2.2.
Okay, whatever. Even more. It is the second most all time after 10 days. It is 600 million away from Avatar. It is no longer a question of if Endgame will be the most money of all time. It is a question of when Endgame will surpass Avatar.
Maybe 1 week.
I think by our podcast next week, I think it will have caught it.
Okay.
I think it catches it before Friday.
I don't know about Friday. I think by the end of the weekend on.
It was
Monday,
averaging $100 million a week last year. Why can't it be doing the same thing this year? Or last week?
That's true. We'll see. We will see.
Okay.
Uh,
Anything else? You really want to talk about news? What do you got going?
Yeah. We had some major deaths in in Hollywood, and this guy said nothing else mattered except for Endgame. Remember that now. I'm
Well,
just
that's
joking.
the major news story. That's what everyone's talking about. No other story is as universal or as worldwide as that movie. Now, obviously, we had a horribly tragic death in Sir Roger Moore. The actor who's most famous for playing James Bond. He's a great actor, and it was sad to see him go.
And he wasn't he your favorite Bond too?
No, unfortunately, it was my third favorite Bond.
Third? Oh, I thought he was your favorite. Oh yeah, your first favorite is Pierce.
Yeah, and then Sean Connery.
Yeah, mine is Sean Connery.
Don't get me wrong. Some of my favorite movies are Roger Moore, like The Man with the Golden Gun is probably my favorite of his movies.
Okay.
Can you name any Roger Moore Bond movies?
No, I only watched the Sean Connery ones.
Fair enough.
'Cause I'm a Sean Connery fan. Oh, and the new ones, I guess, with
The least
what's
Bond,
his face one? What's
Daniel
his face?
Craig?
Daniel Craig, yeah.
And then anyone else? You more in your
Classic
territory?
Chewbacca, the man that played Chewbacca. Rest in peace to Chewie, the legend. We just keep losing these Star Wars characters, man. It's sad. I don't know what we're gonna do.
That's true. The Spider-Man, the latest Spider-Man trailer has come out. I have not seen any of them, so I will not watch this one. But have you?
I've seen it. Spoiler alert for Endgame again. This is gonna have a spoiler. This is gonna have a spoil. It has a. Oh my goodness, I can't speak today. It has a spoil warning for Endgame. So do not see the Spider-Man trailer if you've not seen Endgame. That's just a fair warning to you guys.
You understand that warning in itself is a spoiler to Endgame?
Yeah, for you, because you look way more into movies than other
But
people.
think about it. Just put two and two together. If there's a spoiler warning for Endgame and Spider-Man, that means Spider-Man clearly had to happen after Endgame.
Yeah.
So if anyone was wondering if this movie was going to be a prequel or a sequel to Endgame, because I was still under the impression it was going to be a prequel, and the end scene was going to be the bus coming back into New York to kind of tie it all together.
But is that really a spoiler if you didn't find out if it's a prequel or a sequel?
Depends if you're like me or not, because I don't like to know anything. I want to go in and be like, oh my god, this is after Endgame? I didn't see that coming.
Well, that's just you.
All right. Anything else in the news, or can we get started?
Yeah, we can get started. There was a trailer about a crappy movie, but we're not going to talk about it.
What movie?
Sonic.
They're making a Sonic movie?
Yes, unfortunately.
Like Sonic the Hedgehog?
Sonic the Hedgehog, yes. Did you play that game? You're more a Mario fan, weren't you?
I was a Nintendo guy. I never had Sega.
Yeah, I played Sonic. I played the Sonic games, and I don't care for the character or anything like that.
But why do you think the movie's gonna be bad? You know I don't watch trailers.
Well, I watched the trailer. First of all, the character design is terrible. It's so terrible that a day after the trailer came out, the director came out and said he's redesigning the character because there was a huge backlash about how the character looked.
Okay. I haven't seen a picture of this, so I do not know, but I trust your judgment.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be worse than Power Rangers, but
okay, all right. You need to back up before you say something you're gonna regret.
No, this is gonna be worse. I think this might be the worst movie I've ever seen. Actually, no, nothing's worse than Dragon Ball Evolution, which I have not seen, but I know just from.
You've never seen Dragon Ball?
I refuse to see it because that's just gonna ruin my childhood. So
it was bad, but not worse than Power Rangers.
That honestly, this definitely looks worse than Power Rangers. It doesn't even follow the source material.
But Goku stays true to his character, unlike the Power Rangers where no one stays true to their characters.
Fair enough.
All right, let's get started on our podcast. All right, so today we're going to talk about the Long Shot, the Intruder, and our top 10 Marvel movies, as we said earlier. What do you want to start with?
Let's start with the Long Shot.
Okay. So we're going to start with our opening thoughts as we normally do. Xavier, what are your opening thoughts on Long Shot?
I liked this movie. It was funny. It was an interesting take. It's not something that's usually done a lot. I liked the premise a lot. It was very interesting. It wasn't totally unbelievable for me. I thought the jokes were really good. Had me laughing a lot. I'm a fan of Seth Rogen. I didn't know this, but I think I'm an undercover fan of Seth Rogen movies.
Undercover?
Like I don't announce how much I like Seth Rogen. Say like you're Steve Carell. Like I will say Steve Carell's great. I'm a huge Will Ferrell fan. But I never really talk about Seth Rogen, but I enjoy a lot of his movies that he makes. Like Neighbors isn't terrible. I like Super
This is
Bad and
the
Knocked
end.
Up. This is the end.
My favorite of his movies.
Yeah, that one's a good one. Yeah, I'm a big. I like this movie. This is good. Oh, and Sausage Party. That was great too. That movie's hilarious. What about you?
I agree. This movie was very funny. You know, it's your standard rom com with a political twist, and you know, I thought this movie was very fun. You know, there were tons of political connections to our world today. You know, a Hollywood TV president more concerned with doing other things. You know, does that ring a bell to anybody?
I don't
TV
know.
president,
Who knows?
apprentice, maybe. And as someone who really enjoys politics, I really enjoyed a lot of the elements to this movie. I like the fact that they really didn't express too much the political parties of the candidates. They kept that a little bit under wraps. They talked about real life issues like climate change. They talked about how politicians have their life is literally under a microscope, like how they eat or how they
Mhm.
smile, what foods they can even eat.
How they wave.
How they wave. We gotta work on your wave. Like it's fascinating. It also is very interesting the women in politics angle and the difficulties that they face. You know, i.e., the perception of how they deal with something. They're gonna be first looked at as a woman. It's mind boggling that people surmise that from things like that. I like the news conglomerate angles to it and how they abuse their powers. You know, Wembley News, i.e., Fox News in this movie. You know, and we see like the loss of faith in the political system, and
Mhm.
again, something that is really relevant to our time. So I really liked a lot of what this movie offered, other than just the rom com element to it.
That's true.
All right, ready to deep dive?
Yeah, let's get her done.
All right. So the first thing that happens is we get introduced to our main character, Fred, Seth Rogen. And he is going to a neo-Nazi meeting where like he's about to join the group and they all have to do the like the Nazi salute. He's
Yeah.
like doing it like
Yeah,
yay.
just wave.
He's like nice little wave up.
Yeah.
So funny. He's about to get like a tattoo of the swastika on his arm.
Mhm.
And then we find out they search him up that he's a journalist who's like or like an investigative journalist who's investigating the Nazis. And they're gonna either beat him up, but before they can, he jumps out the window like the third story
Yeah,
and
like
falls
in
onto a
Batman.
car.
Smashes his face on the car and he's like, "I got it."
What were your
How's
thoughts
my
on
phone?
what were your thoughts on starting the movie like this?
It's a good way to introduce the character, right? He's very passionate about his job. He's passionate at exposing. Well, we can audibly assume that this guy's left wing for sure. He's very passionate about exposing right wing hypocrisies, and he's super, super. Well, you will get more into the thing, but the way this movie started, I really like the start. It's a good introduction to his character, and it leads up to how the character really is, and his beliefs and everything like that.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed the introduction. I thought there were some comedic elements to it. It really does a good job introducing Fred's character, the kind of person he is, the length he's willing to go to. You know,
Hmm.
get the tattoo of a swastika just to show the story, to be committed.
Hmm.
Like that takes a lot of guts, and we see this throughout the film. So after that, we meet Charlotte, Charlize Theron's character, and her life can be summed up in three words: work, work, work.
Yeah.
Her first scene, she comes home after presumably a long day at work, and it's already night. And her day doesn't end when she gets home. She's working out, but while she's working out, she's calling other heads of states or other world
Hmm.
leaders. She's doing interviews for magazines and things
Yeah,
like
she's the
that.
Secretary of State,
She
right?
reads documents. She's as you said, the Secretary of State. She is going to take a bath, but as the water is entering the tub, she falls asleep,
And then
like,
it's overspilled.
and then it's overspilling. And the president calls her into the office like the next day and says like, I'm not going for re-election. Like, I'm going to make the jump to film.
Hmm.
And it's the toughest jump anyone's ever made, TV to film.
Yeah.
Only like the naming people that did it, George Clooney and what was the other person that made the jump?
I forget. George Clooney and I'm not too sure. I forgot that one. But there's been a lot of actors that made jump from film to I mean from TV to film.
Yeah,
But
but they're going with like the
Yeah.
absolute like from like being an amazing to being like the elite,
yeah.
not just like a working person and
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
like George Clooney. So she's gonna decide to the president is going to endorse Charlotte to become the next president, which is Charlotte's dream. So does this give you like an appreciation of the life? Like, does seeing Charlotte's life give you an appreciation of the life of a politician at all?
Well, that's a busy politician. I'm sure not every politician's life is like that, but I'd assume that if you're on cabinet, it's probably that's how busy you would be. Or maybe it's just but it might be Hollywood style too, where they just show a lot of the overwork. But who knows?
No, if anything, they underdid it.
Wow.
Like you gotta think like she has to know everything about like almost every country because she's a Secretary of State. And even regular politicians, they're all on committees, right? Like they all have to read thousands of pages of documents, or at least hundreds of pages of documents every week. Like, just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on right now with the Mueller report, right? 400 pages. They have to read all of them, sometimes in like 2 days, to kind of get ready for it, to give their opinion on it, to be able to grill the Attorney General when he comes into Congress. So they have to know their information and have to be prepared. And they always do like news outlets. They have to know what they have to talk to their constituents too, right? Like a cabinet, a Secretary of State doesn't have to do that, right? She's not an elected position. She's appointed by the president. She doesn't have to worry about making sure her people are happy. But a regular politician has to go back to their riding or their state to talk about the issues and things like that. So there's a ton of things. I think this gives this movie in general does a really good job with showing you the life of a politician.
Yeah, I think you got a little bit of a political boner right now.
I'm a political geek. Like I love politics.
Yeah, you're a
But
nerd.
Yeah, 100%. So
Get out of here.
after we meet both characters, we find out that Fred's back at work. He gives his story about the neo-Nazis, and he finds out his company, his small little newspaper that he works for, has been bought out by Wembley the Wembley Corporation, who like owns tons of different
News outlets.
and he is very right wing, very who cares about the news. Like his station when talking about Charlotte talks about, oh, she's the hottest woman in politics. Like they don't talk about issues. They succumb to like chauvinistic elements and racial elements throughout the movie when we do see them on television. So we get this idea right away that Fred absolutely hates Wembley and decides he's going to fire.
I mean, quit.
Get fired. No, that's quit. That's the word. I am definitely wrong on that. He's going to quit.
Yeah, and we tell that he hates Wembley so much that his boss is like, at least let me fire you so you can get unemployment. He's like, no, I quit.
Yeah, he's a man of principle though, right?
Yeah.
You can clearly see that he's funny and he's a good writer because they want him to stay.
Mm-hmm.
But he's clearly given up on politics, right? He's clearly given up on people in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like he pushes everyone away. Has one friend who we're gonna meet in a minute, Lance. But he is, done. I have no faith in people. Like I think a lot of people are. I think this is why this movie is relatable. So he tells his buddy Lance that he's been he's quit or he's been fired. And Lance is they have this great relationship that if ever anyone's ever having a bad day, that they stop whatever they're doing and they kind of try to cheer the other person up. And Lance is this, I'm assuming, like Wall Street guy
Yeah, he's a big Wall Street corporate dude.
who takes him to a fundraiser with Boys to Men.
Hmm.
Does Fred make the right decision quitting his job?
Uh, well, if you ask me, spoiler alert for the movie, yes. After you see what happens at the end, but
No, but at this point, in the
at
movie,
this point in the life,
would you quit your job if someone that you didn't necessarily like bought your was you were working for someone you didn't like?
I wouldn't quit, but I'd probably start looking for a new job and then quit because I have bills to pay. He didn't even think about his bills, so he must really hate Wembley.
Yeah. Yeah, which makes sense. I think I agree with his decision because it's about about your morals. It's about what you want to show the world. His writing is all about it's investigative journalism.
Yeah.
We know in this movie from the TV program that Wembley is not about that, right? He's about scruff.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this party that or at this fundraiser that he goes to, he meets Charlotte, or he sees Charlotte, and Charlotte looks at him, and she recognizes him, or thinks she recognizes him. So she calls him over, and he says, "Oh yeah, we used to babysit me. We were neighbors."
Yeah.
And
And you should get a little bit of backstory of Charlotte's. He was very passionate about the environment, right? And then finds out she lost her student body election.
yeah.
Yes, he lost her student body election.
And Fred had a crush on her from day one.
Yeah.
So she ends up leaving, moving her separate way, and he meets Wembley, and he's basically tells Wembley off and gets kicked out, which is all fine.
Or doesn't he fall down like he's leaves?
Going to, yeah, he leaves. He flies down the stairs
Yeah.
and becomes trending on all like social media.
Yeah.
We also kind of get at this campaign fundraiser, or this whatever fundraiser this is, that Charlotte has some kind of relationship with the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. I mean, sorry, Alexander Skarsgård. Sorry,
Yeah.
who was supposed to be Justin
It looks
Trudeau
like
in this
Justin
movie.
Trudeau. I didn't know that was Alexander Skarsgård. That's crazy.
Yeah, right. And this is really good for her image, right? Being with the Canadian Prime Minister, they make a great couple because everything's image, right? So her consultant actually tells her this: if you can get any pictures with the Canadian PM, you got to do that, and you also need to be more humorous, right? Like you need that. That's like she has all these ratings, right? Her elegant rating, her likability rating, and they're all in like the mid 90s. But her humor, like they don't think she's funny. She got an 82.
Yeah,
So
which
she
is
needs-
still pretty funny
she
if
needs-
you ask me. If you're an 82 in humor.
She needs to hire, a writer that's got some comedic touch to that.
Yeah.
Now, I do have a question for you. Is this idea of like image and how you're looked at, is there truth to it?
Oh, it's truth. It's more true than ever, if you ask me. With social media, oh, here I go. Don't make me go on my anti-social media binge, but you went down the rabbit hole, so this is your fault. But, yeah, with everyone, like, with social media, it's not just politicians that people look at their image. It used to be just politicians and celebrities, but now it's just regular people, right? Jobs hold you to a standard. If you're not looking a certain way on, like, Facebook or anything, you can get, that's grounds for being fired, right? So, image is everything to everyone now. At this point, and
Yeah.
that's all I'm gonna say. If I go down there, we'd be here for about 3 hours. So
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I'm very anti. You're on social media. You're a social media player.
I'm not a player.
How many posts do you post on Instagram on a weekly
On
basis?
a week, that's more like monthly. I probably post in the last 6 months 2 posts.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Maybe Snapchat's the better one. Sorry, How many
Snap's not really social media, though.
That's
It's not.
social media.
You're not viewing everyone. You're sending.
It's all about image, though, isn't it? Isn't Snapchat all about your image?
No, because I don't post to my story. I just send it to like my one friend. So
It's definitely about image, though. Snapchat. You can
I'd
maybe you
prefer
don't
more
do it.
Instagram, but yeah, some people do use Snapchat for image if they post on their story and stuff like that.
Should there be truth to this, though? Should your image be more important than your values?
No. If you ask me, no.
Okay. What are you looking for in a politician? What would you like? You're not very political, right?
I'm not very political, but I want something that benefits me. I don't know if that's selfish, but I like to look more into what I don't care about how they wave, if they're funny, if they're blah blah blah. I just want them to do their job and do it right and look out for what I need and what my needs are. Everything else is just fluff and bullcrap, and I do not care for.
I don't really care. I don't particularly care for image either. I think unconsciously I fall for it though sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I care about message. Like that's what I care about. I care about values. You surprised by this?
No.
Why?
She like our Captain America and Superman.
And what are they all about?
Image.
Not about image.
The image of America. That's what Captain America is about.
Values. All about morality. The moral one. Values. I think that's way more important. I don't know. That's just me though.
Okay.
So either way, that night, the meeting had an impact on Charlotte. And, she starts reading some of Fred's work. And she finds out he's pretty funny. So she decides, I want to hire him. Mm-hmm. So Fred gets a call. She goes to the office. Gets the offer to work. He gets the offer to work for her. And Charlotte just assumes he's going to take it.
Yeah, and he's like, do I let you know when I'm going to take it? And she was shocked.
And the team is completely against this, right? Like, everyone on her team, like, all of the people, like Tom and Maggie, the two big ones, the assistants, they want Fred out. They don't not like Fred. They don't like what he stands for. They don't think he has a good image. But
well, yeah, he kind of looks like the stoner, F the establishment type of guy.
Yeah,
right?
And that's not what you're about.
Mm-hmm.
So why do you think he turns her down initially?
Well, he explains why.
But do you want to tell the audience that?
Yes. Okay. Well, that was just so he explains that people have this image, and then they say it's gonna be great, and then it ends up just being a bunch of fluff, and what really happens never really happens.
This is such a loss of faith, right? Anti-institutionalism, as you said.
Yeah.
Is this a fair statement?
I mean, yeah. Because he doesn't. But there's always going to be compromise, so you can't get everything one way, right? Sometimes you have to compromise, and that's what he doesn't really realize, right?
Yeah, he definitely doesn't realize this. Mm-hmm. Is he right to debate taking this?
Well, no. I don't think he's right. You want to listen to both sides, right? You can't just... Not everyone's going to be happy, but you want to find a way to make at least the most people happy, right?
Look, I'm a firm believer that every politician, whether you're in Congress, whether you're a member of parliament, whether you're a senator, whether you're a cabinet minister, whether you're the president or the prime minister of a country, you are just one cog in a huge machine. Mm-hmm. There are hundreds of congressmen and women. There are
with their own agendas.
Of parliament with their own with their own agendas that have to represent their own people. Mm-hmm. And everyone's looking for something different.
Yeah.
You're just one cog of it. You can want to make a difference, and you could have the best intentions, but not guaranteed to do that. Yeah. All you can do is back the person that you think will be the best person to at least attempt to make a difference. Mm-hmm. That's all you can do in life. And I think that if he believes in Charlotte, he's got to work for her. There's no anti-establishment loss of faith included. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so he decides to do it because he was given one chance. He's like, fine, I'm in. So they go right to they're going on a 6-week or 6-country tour or whatever it is. I think it's a 6-week tour, right?
Yeah.
With over like 39 countries or something like
Mhm.
that. And the first stop is Sweden. And they get off to a rocky start. So in Sweden, they meet with like the leaders of India and China, the big backers of the world, to try to get on her climate goal, which is to save the trees, the seas, and the
And the
bees.
bees. Yeah.
And Fred loves this idea.
Mhm.
But in Sweden, after meeting with the Chinese and Indians, he realizes, or they have to get rid of the trees. Sorry, the seas. They have to get rid of the seas. So it's not only going to protect the trees and the bees. And Fred takes this news horribly to the point where he runs in and kind of get his laptop to change the speech.
Yeah, and then
He embarrasses
throw it out.
himself. Who's wrong here in this argument? Is Charlotte wrong or is Fred wrong?
Fred.
Why?
Like I said, this business is about compromise, and with other countries, they have separate interests.
And he can't compromise.
Mhm.
He's not able to compromise.
Which is a interesting look into a certain type of people, like the extreme left. The extreme
Or
left and
extreme right.
extreme right, right? They both don't want to compromise. It's us. They got this us versus them mentality.
Yeah.
Instead of not listening to what the other side has, right?
No, that's the thing. Like the right and left are like black and white.
Mm-hmm.
There's middle ground. There's no such thing as black and white. There's always shades of gray. There's always the exceptions, and you got to live in the gray somewhere. And sometimes, and you know, I personally agree with a lot of what the right says. I also agree with a lot of what the left says. I'm in the middle. Am I as crazy as some of what they say? Absolutely not. But I'm sure there are issues that you're gonna find. I agree with the right, and I agree with the left.
Yeah, I'm the same way. There's two sides to every story,
Yeah.
right? And even if I don't agree with what the other person's saying, I still give them the chance to speak and hear them out.
Exactly.
Right?
And you know, there's always room for compromise.
Yeah, you can't really move forward if everyone's just screaming louder than the other person, right?
True.
You have to talk, and communication is key. It's just like a relationship, to be honest. If you want things to work, this got real deep real fast.
It
Sorry,
did,
guys.
but that's what this movie is about, right? This movie opens you up to conversations. There's a lot of conversations to be had with this movie.
Yeah.
And Fred, he in the end apologizes. He does the right thing, and the two then bond. And they kind of bond a little bit over culture and pop culture because Fred finds out that Charlotte's life is literally work, 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 and she used to like movies. And he's like, do you watch Game of Thrones? And you were really sore about this because they spoiled the last season, not this season, but the season
Last season.
2 years ago, mind you,
Yeah.
of Game of Thrones.
Hey, listen, if you guys don't want any Game of Thrones spoilers, do not watch this movie. It even shows the scene, which I was like, whoa! I was like, that was not, you could not expect that.
And a lot of MCU stuff too. In fact, they actually, the two of them together while they're bonding, watch The Winter Soldier.
Oh, yeah,
Which,
that's
when
true.
Nick Fury gets shot, brilliant. I loved it. I loved the thing about it though. The two probably biggest cultural references over the last 10 years are Game of Thrones and the MCU.
Yeah, which
Like
is
that-
pretty funny.
That's it, right?
In fact, you see them in a movie, too.
It's true. And then they go to Manila in the Philippines, and they're about to kiss, and Philippines has some political
civil
issues
war.
these days.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of bombs going off near the hotel, and they get sent into the basement.
To a little safety, emergency shelter.
And the two make out, and then they get brought to into a helicopter to some island somewhere to a beautiful hotel. They have sex together, and it's all a secret.
There's kids listening to this podcast. They work out together.
Sexually.
Not sexually, just working out. Okay, let's go back to the movie now, please.
She talks about, you know, one of the lines I really liked just before this Manila scene or before they start kissing is she talks about how tough it is to date. How she can't really find a guy that's willing to be by her side. You know, find a guy that would travel the world with her.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a guy thing? Is this like a legitimate guy thing?
I think I think it's a anyone thing, in my opinion. Cause I don't know, like there's a lot of famous DJs that are international DJs and their families don't follow them well around, and then they break up, or like say basketball players, everything like that. There's not a lot of people that want to go and travel the world, so we'll see.
Okay. I don't think it's a human thing. I think it's a certain human thing.
Oh,
Me personally, if I was dating a girl who wanted to run for office and was actually like in office for a couple years and wanted to be prime minister, I'd be all for that.
well, yeah, that's you. You love politics,
But it's not about being
but I wouldn't be against that either. You know.
But it's not being in politics, right? There's so many benefits to it. Like I'll use the American example because I'm it's more in our faces. But Melania Trump, she has her own team. She gets her own like the public like agendas that she wants to do with. She's all about cyberbullying,
Mhm.
which is kind of ironic if you ask me. But that's another story. But I don't think it's a guy thing. I think I don't think it's a human thing. I think it's a certain person thing that
Okay.
are too that can't put their check their egos at the door.
Yeah.
Like,
So
you
a
have to
human
be-
thing. 'Cause humans cannot check their egos.
I think some humans can. I think
Yeah,
a lot
some,
of humans struggle
like,
with it. I don't know.
sliver percentage.
I
Top.
think that you should be proud of your significant other for achieving that greatness.
Yeah.
I don't.
That's the whole point. You got to support them together.
And you get to travel the freaking world. I'm all for that.
Well, some people don't want to travel the world.
I guess.
The crazy ones.
So, like any good or like any rom com, they break up.
Well, they have a fight.
They have a well.
They were never together.
They were secretly together.
Yeah.
But Wembley, after this bees and trees. What's so funny?
They want to because the
Oh yeah.
video.
So Wembley, after this bees and trees initiative, he wants it out because
he wants the trees out.
he wants the trees out because he wants to destroy trees in Alaska.
Yeah.
And Charles like no. So Wembley says okay. Brings in a laptop and apparently Wembley's been spying on Fred and he's masturbating to Charlotte and he finishes
Isn't
on
that
his
illegal
face.
too?
It is, but that's not relevant. It's again, it's the political world, right? Leak the video, and then it's not about him, right? Because when Charlotte goes to see Fred after, Fred's like, let them release the video. Who cares what happens to me? And she's like, well, I'll get slut shamed, which is mind-boggling.
But it's true that does happen, which is messed up.
I know that's what I'm saying. It's mind-boggling. Like that's like I see a guy masturbating to a girl, and it's like the girl's fault. What? Now, don't get me wrong.
Kids movie, playing with himself. There we
It's
go.
not a kids movie.
I mean, kids.
It's not a
listen,
kids podcast.
Okay.
We've dropped the S word in this and the
Okay.
A word. Like we're good.
Okay.
So he basically blackmails her. You want this if you don't want this on the internet, you're going to get rid of the trees. She obliges and she wants the president's, endorsement. So she says, "Fine, we'll get rid of the trees." Would you do this? Do you agree with Charlotte on here?
Well, honestly, it is image, and like me personally, I wouldn't care, but I know a lot of people that would care, especially with this day and age, where people pull tweets from 12 years ago and just rage.
Oh, that's
So you would kind of have to. You don't know how the public's gonna react.
Yeah, and why are humans so shallow?
I don't know. That's just.
I don't understand. I don't get it. Like I just don't care.
Yeah, well,
Like I just don't understand what there is to care about.
it's the celebrity culture, man.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
Would you you wouldn't react
We're
that
all
way, would
new
you?
slaves.
Because
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Well, react like, oh my god, this guy. I
I
think
could
the
care
video
less.
would be hilarious, but I wouldn't be like,
I don't.
whatever.
When a sex video comes out, I don't care. Like that doesn't change my opinion on anybody.
Yeah, because well, everyone does, and it's the privacy of their own home.
Yeah, especially when someone's stealing.
Yeah, someone stole that information and sent it out, so you can't really. It's not their fault. It's not for the public to see, but like people do it, so you can't really. I never got why people got in, like had to apologize for that.
Because they're so like, oh, I can't. Like they're so. Oh, it's immoral to have sex. What?
I'm sorry I did things in the privacy of my own home and phone, and you had to, and I got hacked for the world to see. It's
Yeah.
my fault. Like we should probably find the hacker and arrest him, and he should probably apologize. But no,
Yes.
it's a celebrity.
Yeah. I don't know. It's stupid. So Fred also finds out the only way that he can be together with Charlotte is if they scrub all of his information from the internet, all his stories, everything, and they clean his image and make
He
his
becomes
image.
Marilyn Monroe. That's
Yeah,
what they call
they have
it.
to hide him and become the Marilyn Monroe of the White House until the image is clean, and this could take months.
Yeah.
And
Or years.
Now, do you think this is fair?
No, it's not, but that's what it is, right? People cling to these things like, what's wrong? What happened to that guy with Coney that was caught, like, rubbing one out in public? And then no one followed the Coney initiative anymore, right?
True.
So, I mean, that is still kind
It
of messed
shouldn't be
up,
fair,
though.
though, right? Like, it shouldn't be fair. Like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't, like, again, this goes back to human stupidity. That, like, I just think people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, and I think that this is the problem. We all do stupid shit.
Yeah.
Every
but-
single one of us have skeletons in our closet that are like just stupid skeletons. Like we've all said something stupid, we've all done something stupid, and that's stuff that we wouldn't want out there.
Yeah.
So if something from someone else gets out there, you should be the last person to comment, because if you look at yourself in the mirror, you probably did something just as bad.
Let he who without sin cast the first stone.
Yeah,
A
that's
wise man
My
once said that.
favorite line from the Bible. My favorite story from the Bible. When Jesus just like draws that line in the sand. Go ahead, first person without sin, throw the stone. How many people throw stones at the girl?
One. Myself. I was there. 0.
That's right. None. So he says no, and they break up. So Charlotte is going to announce her candidacy for president. And in the speech, she talks about how this 16-year-old girl, how this was always her dream, and then she says, "My 16-year-old self would be so not proud of me,
I thought I was disappointed.
or disappointed, whatever, same thing." And then she comes clean on everything. She talks about how she's been blackmailed. She talks about how like the guy I really like, Fred, there's a video on the internet that's going to be released now. Please don't slut shame me.
Yeah.
And then she
It works out for her.
leaves to go see Fred. And Fred, who's watching this on TV live, goes to see her. They mix up. They eventually meet at Fred's house, and they both pronounce their love to each other. They go They go outside, and the media is waiting there. And she introduces Fred to the media. A couple months later, she's president, and Fred is the first man.
First man. And he
You-
got his thing done by Steph McFarlane, which is great. I probably would have done the same thing.
Yes. Were you content with the ending of this movie?
Yeah, I liked it.
A great ending, right?
It was a really good ending, and I like how even though he had that mishap, people went over it and decided to vote for her. But I think it's because she was very honest. If she wasn't honest and said all those things, it wouldn't have gone her way. But because she was honest and said the video was going to be leaked before it was out, she got the jump on him. She's president. They're together. Now she can start trying to make changes in the world.
Any negatives? Any criticisms of this movie?
Obviously, there's some scenes, like, we didn't talk about the whole Molly scene, like, when she was on Molly and had to talk to people on Molly. But, like, that scene, I was like, okay, like, people have to know, like, someone would take a picture and people would know that, like, that's the Secretary of State on Molly at a rave.
Yeah, it's in France. They probably wouldn't know who she is.
That's true. Fair enough.
I don't know. Plus, probably a really high-end club or really low-end club, one of the two.
Yeah.
Where, like, nobody would know. If
Yeah.
They don't follow Like, how many
people at a rave would follow politics?
Who's the Secretary of State in Canada?
I don't know.
Or the Minister of the Exterior, technically, is what
The
they are.
Minister of the Exterior? Yeah. I don't know. Don't ask me these
But
questions.
isn't that the point? Who's the Secretary of State of the United States?
Hillary Clinton.
She was under Obama.
Yeah, I don't
But
know.
you get my point here?
Yeah.
There you go. All right.
Fair enough.
So that's your criticism?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't really have like too many criticisms. They're all like little small things that add up, right? Like like to me, it's a good movie. Like it's enjoyable. Like I never sat there and was like, "Oh my God, is this movie almost over?" Like it's
Yeah, no.
relatable. And one thing I really liked
I
about
never
this
checked
movie,
the time.
yeah, one thing I really liked about this movie that really didn't really talk about is Lance and Fred's relationship, and in
Oh.
the end, we find out that Lance is actually a Republican,
Mhm.
and that's on the right side of the spectrum, and it's like an eye-awakening experience because Lance never told Fred that because Fred didn't hang out with non-Republicans
Yeah,
or didn't hang out with Republicans.
Republicans, because
Yeah,
they all are evil and
and you have these like best friends. Like it just shows you what politics does, how divisive it can be, how
yeah.
political parties just. But these are best friends. They have so many same ideas. They just view a couple things differently, and they have to
Mhm.
be enemies, right? People are all same, right? We all bleed red blood, right?
Yeah.
If you
That's
prick
the
us,
thing.
do we
You
not
can
bleed?
still. It's all about compromise, Just because someone has a different view than you doesn't mean you can't be friends with them and like talk to them. Everyone's like, I only want people that are like me, think like me, and talk like me. But there's no point of like, it's not healthy to have everyone that just thinks like you. Because if you are around people that all think like you're never gonna see the other side of the story, and this is what happens now. And we get to this point where we've been more divided than ever
That's true.
as people.
Anything else you want to talk about with this movie? Any other questions? Anything? Any
No,
other ideas?
no, I'm done. I dropped the mic on all you guys.
Okay.
Just dropped pure knowledge.
What are you giving this movie out of 10?
I'm gonna give this movie an 8. I raised it ever since talking about it, so I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10.
What did you have going into this podcast?
7.5.
Interesting. I'm going with an 8.5. Solid movie, very enjoyable. It's not gonna blow your socks off. It's gonna make you think a little bit,
Hmm.
but
I like comedies that make you think.
it's not the most believable movie. Like again, the scenes in Manila, the Molly sequences.
Yeah.
These aren't gonna happen in real life.
Hmm.
But I mean, that's
It's a comedy as well,
It's a,
so you gotta take that.
It's a rom com.
Hmm.
So it's a very good rom com. So 8.5 is what I'm giving it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to The Intruder.
Okay.
What are your opening thoughts on this movie?
Listen, I'm not a big fan of these type of movies. The creepy person that is an intruder that breaks into the home. But I felt this was very serviceable. I didn't hate this. I was intrigued. I wasn't not interested in the movie. There are certain elements that it made it believable. Like I didn't think, oh, why didn't they just call why didn't they call the police? It made it believable. They had certain the backstories of the characters were very key in this movie, which made it more believable of why certain policemen weren't called yet. So I actually enjoyed it. Not gonna lie, for an intruder movie, it's not bad at all.
I'm gonna agree with. I agree with pretty much everything you said. If you're into home invasion movies, this is the movie for you.
That
It
true.
is. It is everything you're gonna want in a movie and more. Now that being said, I think the biggest strength in this movie is Dennis Quaid. I think he steals the show. I think he made this movie. And don't get me wrong. I love Michael Ealy and Megan Good did a good job, but it's Dennis Quaid's believability and how he balanced being a creep and the innocent person that you wouldn't call the cops on that makes the movie good.
Hmm.
And they do a fantastic job with this, balancing his creepiness with his innocence. And there was very good pacing for a movie, especially one that was almost
Yeah.
2 hours.
Yeah, it was 2 hours.
It was like an hour 45.
Wow, I didn't even notice.
It didn't feel that way,
was good.
right?
That's good.
There were some good jump scare moments in that
Mhm.
movie. Like I personally think I jumped less in a movie that I said had no jump scares, but
Yeah.
there were some good one. The concept was pretty interesting, and I personally liked the ending of the movie. I thought it was a good way to end it. So I like that. I think this is a very good movie. Okay, so let's deep dive into it.
Okay.
So we meet Scott, and Scott is an executive at some kind of company that is celebrating making a huge deal. And now it's time for him and his wife to start a family, and they want to settle in the country. That's the wife's dream, to settle in the country. Annie, the wife, finds this dream home in the country, which is Charlie, Dennis Quaid's character's house, and they decide to buy it for $3.5 million.
3.3.
3.3. So
They got it at a
You're
discount.
right. He got it at 2. And they got all the furniture in the house
And the
too.
furniture. They never used, so it wasn't really a discount.
True. I'm sure there was like some of like the like the lawnmower and
Yeah,
shit like that. The tools, right?
The tools and stuff.
Man, what is it with the country? Why the country?
I would never live in the country if you ask me, but that's just me. So after so they have a little bit of tour. They buy the home.
But hold on. I'm still curious. You understand though, like every horror movie takes place in the country, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're living in the country, like all you're doing is asking to be like in
Have
a horror
a creep. Yeah. That's true.
especially with their backyards, like like they can't be. No one can build behind them because their backyard's protected like by a nature reserve.
Yeah. It's all forest. If anything that I see a deer coming on my property, I'm not living there.
I'm with you. And did you even like this house?
No, I told you. I'm like, would you buy this house?
I mean, if you like nature, yeah. Like I would spend like a week in the house for like a
Airbnb,
like a B&B or like a
B&B.
an Airbnb. That's what.
That's what I was saying. I just said that.
Whatever.
A B&B, bread and breakfast.
Well, I was right. It was B&B. It just had an air in front of
Yeah.
it. But like that idea, like I would do that.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm a city boy.
Oh, me too.
I love the city, so I'm not a country person. I've went camping like twice, hated it.
I've never been camping in a tent.
Yeah, well, I've been camping in a tent, and that's the first and last time.
No. I'll tell you this though. I don't mind going into nature for vacation, but I want to come back into a hotel after.
Yeah, that's fair
Like
enough.
go a
I'm
nice
the
little
same
hike.
way. Yeah, go on a hike and everything. Yeah, I just don't want to sleep out there.
Yeah, no, it's true. What do you think of the relationship between Scott and Annie?
Well, at the beginning, you think it's all sunshine and rainbows.
Really?
Like at the very beginning.
Yeah,
Like when she had the surprise for
No,
him,
I'm talking about like even at this point to where they buy the house.
where they buy the house. Oh, at that point, you can tell the wife's way more into it than Scott. He's not a big fan of this home, but it's his wife, and then you can tell like how much would you like for? He's like 3.5, and he's like, we're leaving. Like he's right away. He's like, I'm not paying that amount of money for that, right? So you can tell he's not. He's strictly business. You can tell he's a business guy. Big deal. Nice cars, right? He has a G-Wagon. So he's city bred and born. So, but you don't sense any tension yet. He's doing this for his wife, so you can tell he really loves his wife.
I think he's a little domineering.
Oh.
Like it feels like that. Like it's subtle.
Mm-hmm.
It's just some of the little things he does. Like you point out, come on, we're leaving. Pretty domineering move, right?
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
Like even like when Charlie comes to see them after knocking on the window and says, "Look, I want the person who buys this house to be like someone that I like," and then he like rolls up the window on him, and the wife's like, "Did you just roll up the window on this nice man?"
Mm-hmm.
Like it's almost setting it up to for him to be this jealous person.
Well, I mean, if you're in the corporate world, that's kind of how your personality is.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's just who he is.
Mm-hmm. You know, he's like, because he's confident in himself. He's like, I'm the king. I got this big deal. Look what I can do. Like, everything that's here is because of me. I'm the man, you know?
Yeah,
that's what he feels like.
It's true. What are your first thoughts on Charlie?
Well, we saw the trailer, but Charlie was good. He seemed like a nice guy, a little bit creep. Like, even like all of his jokes and stuff like that. He seemed like a harmless old man at the first.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point that you say Dennis Quaid steals the show, because that's exactly what happens. Like, he's his perfect balance of crazy and harmless old man.
Well, literally the first thing we see is him shooting a deer.
Yeah.
And then walking over with a gun, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, guys, I'm sorry. Look, there's a bounty on deer. It's okay. Like
we're gonna be laughing about
we'll
this.
be laughing
Don't worry,
about this
guys.
by the end of the day. And then like the little joke at the end as they're leaving,
Mhm.
like, see, we're laughing at it.
Yeah.
Watch out for the deer.
Honestly, there's a lot of older gentlemen that I've had conversations with that are just like
Exactly.
Charlie Peck. And they're great guys to talk to, right? These
I,
seem like cool guys.
but
So
different. They grew up in different times, different eras, different way of speaking.
hmm
That looks creepy today, but it just wasn't creepy back then. So like
yeah,
I'm definitely I again I most of my appreciation of this movie goes to Dennis Quaid. Like I think
yeah,
he's not normally the villain. Like if you look at his body of work, he's the good guy. Like he plays like the everyman, kind of like a Tom Hanks in a lot of ways.
hmm
Not obviously as world renowned as Tom Hanks, but that's kind of his roles, right? Like just that everyman.
okay,
Um, so we get to Charlie the Creep,
yeah,
and over the next couple of you know the next bit of the movie, we have or this couple here, Scott and Annie, they have some run-ins with Charlie, who
hmm
said he was going to Florida but hasn't.
yeah,
And they both look at it a different way. Annie, sympathetic.
yeah. Feels
Scott,
bad for him. He doesn't have any.
suspicious.
Yeah,
And we have there's probably about 9 major scenes before we get to the climax of the movie.
hmm
So we have their best friends or Scott and Annie's best friends come over, and they're having some drinks. The Mike, the gentleman, he is smoking outside and
peas on the roses.
pees on the roses, throws a cigarette butt on the grass,
Yeah,
and the next morning when they leave, there's cigarette burns on his upholstery,
hmm
and they just kind of
yeah. They're like, oh, what happened? He's like, that's why you should stop smoking. You
I
shouldn't be
never smoke.
smoking.
I never smoke in my baby,
It's my sanctuary.
but nothing crazy. Then maybe a couple weeks later, Charlie's mowing the lawn,
hmm
and Annie's like, "Why are you mowing the lawn?" And he's like, "Well, you guys weren't doing it. You have to maintain the house. I'm helping. I'm not going to Florida quite yet."
Yeah, that's where I'd be a little bit suspicious.
But she
I'd
gets
be defensive. I'm like, it's not your house. I can leave the grass how I want to leave the grass.
no, I would
I wouldn't.
I would look at it like Annie did.
I wouldn't call the cops, but I'd be like, well, thank you for cutting it. But like, the way he said, I'd take a little bit of offense to it. I'd take a little salt.
No, I
Just
wouldn't. I wouldn't at all.
Yeah, I know
I'd
you.
be the opposite. Thank you. Like he's lived in this house his entire life.
hmm
He's a connection to this house.
Yeah.
And I'd see it like Annie did. Annie sees it as a sweet old man. Like, could you imagine I just think of my 80-year-old grandfather. Like if he had nothing else, like his wife had died, or
hmm
his only child lived in Florida, like on the other side of the country, and that's
hmm
all I can hold on to because that's the memories of all my children and of my wife.
hmm
You know what? He's not been nothing but nice to me. Here he is trying to help me out. I wouldn't have an issue with that. And then in Annie's fashion, she invites him over to Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
which Scott ain't happy at all.
hmm
And at Thanksgiving, do you find him creepy at all?
No.
Maybe to Mike, but Mike's kind of creepy himself. So,
Yeah. Well, the conversation with Mike's a little bit creepy, but that's about it.
but I think that's Mike, right?
Yeah.
But
Plus, you can tell he's upset with Mike because the cigarette thing. Because we all know we didn't confirm, but we all know he burnt the seat.
But when he gets into the house, right, he's just he knocks on the door. Well, he tries to open the door first. Then he knocks on the door,
hmm
and they have this conversation. Scott shows Charlie the new things to the house, and his beautiful tapestry is gone.
Yeah.
And you could see the anger in his eyes.
Yeah.
You hear the volume of what Scott's saying disappear.
Yeah. Right. He's not even paying attention. He's just like, oh, okay.
Oh my God, you're destroying my house.
Yeah.
Like you can see it.
hmm
Like it's there, the creepiness, the evil, but
Yeah.
it just goes away. And then he
Mhm.
puts a smile on his face and goes back to dinner. And they have a great dinner. He brought pie. Everything's good. The couple, everyone thinks he's going to Florida. A couple days later, they decided, or Scott and Annie decided to put up a security system.
hmm
And Charlie's like, "What are you doing in my house?"
Yeah.
Kind of creepy,
hmm
but just leaves.
Yeah. He doesn't cause a big scene or anything, and I wouldn't call. That's not even. I'm like, okay, like, buddy, this is not your house anymore, but okay, right?
Yep. And then a couple days later, or a couple weeks later, they see Charlie. I guess he was on their way home. He was doing some hunting, and he's trying to show them where the Christmas decorations are because it's time to put up the Christmas decorations. And Scott wants none of it. Get off my property. Get off my
Yeah.
property. Get off
He
my
has the
property.
gun, right? Scott has a he's worried about having a weapon. Like his brother was killed,
Yeah.
was gunned down, so he has gun issues. Whenever he sees a gun, he starts.
But he put the gun down. He wasn't that angry.
Yeah.
When he first had it, right? He got over it. Charlie's a hunter. That's what he does.
Yeah.
So,
but at that point, it wasn't his property at the time.
And Annie was like, "Oh, look, he's helping us out. Look at all these Christmas decorations. This is awesome." And then kicks him right out.
Yeah.
So, couple days later, Scott's staying late at work, going to looks like hook up with one of his clients.
Yeah.
And Annie's putting the decorations up all by himself.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie comes over with some wine for a Christmas gift, and then helps Annie put up the decorations. Annie has nothing but respect for him.
Yeah, Charlie doesn't realize he's in the friend zone, but
it
happens.
Then later that night, when Scott gets home, we find out that he cheated on Annie before.
Yeah,
but not this time.
He sent a text. He sent a text message, and every time he sent a text message, he was up to no good.
So he apologizes, but he has to sleep in the guest room.
Mm-hmm.
But in the middle of the night, Scott thinks he sees Charlie.
Well, he doesn't apologize yet. They have the fight, and then she makes him sleep in the guest room.
Well, he apologizes when he gets home, and then he apologizes again after. But he sleeps in the guest room, and he thinks he sees Charlie walking around. So as he's walking around, Annie comes out, and the two of them, they make love. They exercise together. Right on the floor.
Hey, it's their house.
And the way it was shot, but with some kind of glass. Mm-hmm. As you just see in the background Charlie watching them.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant shot.
Yeah, but that's creepy as hell, but Charlie watching them and the trouser snake is popping out.
Looks like the next day as Scott's doing some running outside, he gets hit by a car.
Yeah.
Charlie's car. And then that night Mike is asked by the best friend. Mike is asked by Scott to look into him. And we find out that his wife died in that house, and that he was actually
he killed the wife.
Debt, and we don't know that for sure yet. But that he was in serious debt. That's why he had to sell the house.
Mm-hmm.
So Scott's like to Mike, go make sure Annie's okay. And Annie has let Charlie into the house with a nice big pizza, and they're sharing together, and they're having some wine together.
Because Charlie's like, hey, I heard Michael's injured.
No, Scott.
Scott, sorry. Why do I keep calling? Because his real name is Michael.
But so Charlie, while he's flirting with Annie, sees Mike creeping in the bushes, and he runs outside and ends up with an axe and ends up killing him.
Yeah. He's like, I'd do anything to get my life back, and hides the body.
When now you got me saying it. When Scott gets out of the hospital and goes home, he tells listen, this thing is with Charlie.
Well, first he calls the daughter, and the daughter tells him.
Yeah, you're jumping ahead in the movie.
Yeah. Doesn't he call the daughter on the way?
Because remember they have to put the restraining order on first.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So he goes home and he finally convinces Annie that this guy is creepy. This guy, he hit me with the car. He's in debt. He's not good. So they get a restraining order out on him. And the next day at work, when Scott is going to whatever his, I guess, in-house PI to find out information on where the daughter was in Florida, they found the daughter, but the daughter didn't have the same name as Charlie told them. She had changed her name. So he calls her. And when she finds out he's calling about the dad, she hangs up right away. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, Annie's coming home, and Charlie, he's in the house.
Yeah.
This is the moment. Up until this moment, I think it's a very fair statement that there was no reason to call to the police, right? There was nothing that was absolutely ridiculously creepy where you would be like,
Yeah, or any concrete evidence where you're like, okay, this guy is the one. This guy, he needs jail time.
very true.
Mhm.
So Annie's able to get him out of the house.
Yeah.
But I guess Charlie forgot to close the door in the pantry because the pantry is actually a door to a side basement of the
A
house.
secret home, you know?
Secret area where Charlie's actually been living for the past couple weeks.
For past months, actually.
Sorry, last couple past months, absolutely. Charlie catches her, so she tries to run away, and as she's running away, she sees dead Mike.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she gets back into the house, Charlie knocks her out.
Yeah. And he's like, you did it. Why'd you do this?
Meanwhile, Scott ends up getting a hold of the daughter again, and she's like, is my dad dead? He's like, no, I bought his house, and he's still bothering me. And then he says, my dad's a chronic liar.
Mm-hmm.
He killed my mom and got away with it. And if he ever came to my house, I would kill him on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Are you content with the daughter's role in this movie? Like, just for that's why she's there, right?
To confirm that he's a psychopath. Yeah, I am. I mean, she can't really do much. She just left and changed her name because her dad had defamed the name. What can she really do, right? She's already been proven innocent.
No, I agree. I liked it. The only thing I would have liked about this movie, and I don't need this, but if there was like a little twist ending where like Charlie was good and Mike killed him for no reason.
Oh, the daughter really killed him?
And the daughter was the one who killed the wife, and it was all set up.
That would have been pretty interesting. I wouldn't mind that.
This movie didn't need a twist.
But then that would probably be a sequel. They try to be like, let's do a sequel. So that's what they probably do if they. So that's probably better that they didn't have that twist.
So we get to our little bit of ending here, and Charlie is going to rape Annie, and Scott ends up coming home just before this gets done, and he gets, Charlie ties up Annie, and then goes hog ties Annie, and he goes after Scott, and he beats him up and throws him off the second level, hits the chandelier, and goes right back to Annie, who's kind of broken out of her chains or her hog tie, and they kind of fight. And as Scott makes his way back up, and the three of them all are fighting and getting thrown around, and Annie
stabs
Charlie in the back.
In the back.
Now, you didn't really like this at first.
Yeah, well, I didn't. It's not that I didn't like this, but I knew this was going to be cinematic effect, and I figure if that was me, I'm stabbing multiple times. Like, I'm making sure you're dead.
See, the thing is why I'm okay with it in this scene, because normally I'm with you in movies, but he didn't drop, right? It's not like he, so many times when you stab someone, they just fall to the ground.
Yeah.
And then you leave them and walk away. She stabbed him in the back, and he kind of just was starting to move away. You're not going after him at that point.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I just wouldn't want him to be out there because he's coming back.
No, I understand that. But if he was lying on the ground and you just drop the knife and we're and try to run away, that's stupid. Get the knife and stab him in the head and then run away. You don't have to stab him over and over again. Just one to the head, right through the brain, and you're good.
Yeah, that's true.
But
right through the temple.
In this
for
movie,
good luck.
Yeah, in this movie though, we don't get that because he doesn't go down.
Yeah, he gets up and runs away.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh.
And you're not gonna chase him.
Yeah.
So, the two of them, they kind of make sure each other's okay. Scott's a little bit of limping for getting thrown off the roof or the second floor, and Charlie goes to grab a gun, and the two of them hide in one of the rooms. And when Charlie enters the room, they're not in there, or at least he can't see them. They push the door closed, and we see Scott with a baseball bat, and he takes the baseball bat to the head of Charlie. They grab the gun, Scott grabs the gun, and Annie calls the cops.
Yeah.
And when she calls the cops, she says, "My husband just shot an intruder."
Yeah.
Great line.
I love that.
Hangs up.
And he's like, no, 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 and then it finished with the gunshot,
And then that's it.
credits.
End credit. What'd you think of the ending of this movie?
I liked it.
I did
We don't
too.
need to. We don't need to see the aftermath. What happens? Oh, he was crazy. Like oh no. It's like no one really needs closure. The closure's that they got rid of the creep. I don't really care about their life after. They're probably gonna get a divorce if you ask me. But
Why did he get a divorce?
Cause Michael will be looking at other women. He's not. I mean, Scott. He's not faithful. He flirted with.
He flirted, but this time he said no, and I think that's an important scene in the movie. But I'll be honest with you, I didn't like that element.
What?
Like that he cheated. I didn't think it was relevant to the story.
I don't know. It made sense because it makes sense why Annie would put up more with the innocent, like would trust Charlie more, right? Because even sometimes you just keep appearing at the house unannounced, right?
But no, but she's like she views him as like a grandfather, like a father, like.
Well, yes, she kind of views him as like one of that, but it's also because she's mad at.
But this
Scott.
is years ago. This is before they were even got engaged, right?
Yeah,
this
but
isn't
even,
like we were married a year ago. You cheated, and then I forgave you, and now we're a year later, and you're doing it again. This has probably been like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, but they hint at it, right? He was talking to that one girl, and he was flirting.
Oh, he was definitely
ice cream lady.
But that's the thing, right? That scene was not relevant. He didn't do it. If anything, that scene just tells us that he was definitely going to be faithful from this point forward.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that was a little forced. It's a nitpick.
Okay.
I'm definitely.
Me, I was okay with it.
I didn't love that sequence. Like if they cut that out, if they cut out the whole cheating thing, I'd have been fine with the movie.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would have changed?
Not really. Like I said, I'm not a big Intruder guy. Maybe. Yeah, no, nothing I really was interested in changing.
Okay. Any other questions? Anything you want to talk about with this movie? Anything we missed?
No. There's nothing that I want to talk about. It was a pretty solid Intruder or home invasion movie.
Okay, what are you giving it out of 10 then?
I'm gonna give it a 6.5 out of 10.
Really? But you didn't even say anything negative about the movie, and you're giving it a 6?
I don't like Intruder movies.
But you said this is like the best Intruder movie you've seen. You said it didn't feel
it's not the best. I said it was very serviceable.
Okay, so where's the negativity? Where's the negativity coming from? Tell our audience here.
My negativity
where does it lose 3.5 out of 10?
I'm not a fan of Intruder movies.
So that's the only thing.
Yeah, that's the biggest
3.5 because you don't like Intruder movies.
Yes. Why are you judging it's my rank? I can rate how I want to rate.
I just feel it's a very low rank for a movie that you said.
What's your rating then?
I'm giving it a 7.5.
Oh my goodness, only 1.5 above. This
yeah,
guy's
but
so defensive.
But to me, like a
hey
6
man, if you don't have anything negative, why isn't it perfect?
Well, I you've asked me. I can actually answer this question.
Okay.
I'm going to say that in a movie like in a home invasion movie, there are things that you cannot do, and one of them that they don't do in this movie is really do a good job developing certain characters. I don't think the characters of Mike were developed that played a role in the movie. I don't really think that we get enough backstory between Scott and Annie, specifically the cheating elements to it, right? Like you have that scene in there for what? It's a nitpick, it's a small thing, but absolutely. We don't really get this idea of why they want to move to the country to begin with. Like it's not really developed. Those characters are not developed too much. Even the sequence with like the daughter. He had 2 kids. He had a son too.
Never talked about the son.
Exactly. Why not? Is the son still alive? Is the son living with the daughter?
He did.
I would have it's not that I wasn't content with the daughter scene. I wanted more. I wanted some backstory. For what it was very good. But it could have been better. They could have cut certain things in and added and developed other things better. Okay. That's what I would say about the movie. That's why I would give it a 7.5 and not 6. To me, if you're giving a movie in the 7s, it was a good movie. If you're giving a movie in the 6s, it was just okay. That's why I was surprised.
6.5.
So it was just okay.
It wasn't just okay. It was good.
So what's
my rating is different than your rating.
So where does good start for you?
Good starts anywhere at 6.5. There we go.
So what's a 7.5?
7.5 is very good.
And what's an 8.5?
8.5 is I loved it.
And what's a 9.5 then?
9.5 is almost best movie ever.
And a 10 out of 10?
Greatest movie I've ever seen
So
in my
you've
life.
only given one 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And that was Endgame.
Yeah.
Because you gave Endgame a 10 out of 10 last
Yeah,
week.
greatest movie I've ever
So
seen
what
in
would
my
you give
life.
Infinity War?
Infinity War, another 10 out of 10.
But there's only one greatest movie you've ever seen in your life.
No, that's just the ranking. You can't question the ranks. Okay.
All right. I
Listen, we have different ranking systems,
we do.
and
That's
you need
true.
to
That's fair.
understand this.
That's fair. Okay. So you're giving it a 6.5. I'm giving it a 7.5. But you would tell everyone to go watch the movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't say don't watch
So
this.
I do have a question for you though. If you saw someone ranking a movie 6.5 out of 10, would you want to go see that movie? Would that be enticing?
Yeah,
Okay.
I see it.
I start getting weary when I
Well,
see sixes.
for me, I don't really care about what other people rank it because I judge it myself. So
Okay, that's
shut
true.
up.
I'm that way, so I respect that. Okay, so let's talk about our top 10 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies.
Yeah,
I'm
give
very
me
excited to talk about this. I spent a lot of time going through the movies. You know, we watched them all in the last month, so I have a very fresh perspective on this.
Okay.
So, Xavier,
Who's starting the list? Me or you?
who started last time?
I forget.
I think it was me. So, you start this. Yeah, I started last time because I ended. So, start us off.
All right.
Your number 10 movie.
Number 10 movie is the movie that launched the entire franchise of the MCU. It is Iron Man. So obviously this is really good. Casting. I'm going to talk a lot about the casting, but Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. You can't separate the two anymore. The way he just portrayed Tony Stark and just the scene was just so true to the well, not so true. They changed it a little bit, but it played a lot of good homage to how the comics activated, and this is what launched a B-list character into an A-lister for the MCU. And let's just talk about the teasers, right? At the end of the movie, there's a nice ending credits to get you hyped, and then that started the trend of everyone staying super late at the end of a movie to see the teaser trailer at the end of it. What else can I say about it? This movie was awesome. Do I go to 9 or
No, I do 10.
Okay.
My number 10 movie is Black Panther, the 18th movie in the MCU. You know, I knew nothing about Black Panther going into this movie. I knew nothing about the characters, nothing about the story, nothing about the villains. I knew nothing about. I didn't even know where Wakanda was.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I fell in love with so many of the elements of this part of the MCU. You know, the three characters that I like the most. You know, I love, obviously T'Challa is fantastic, but come on, we can both agree Shuri stole the show, right?
Yeah.
And I love M'Baku. I don't care what anyone says. M'Baku's the man in Wakanda. All right, the number one man in Wakanda is M'Baku. Okay.
Well, you know, everyone has their entitled to their own opinion.
I'm just kidding. We're vegetarians. It's, you know, Black Panther had a great story, great plot. Villain was fantastic, and Marvel might not have as good villains as DC does, but their villains are so believable, and you can get on board with them. There are people that be like, I understand where they're coming from, and that sometimes is more dangerous than having the super villain that everyone hates or that everyone's like, you're dead wrong. We do not want you to win.
Yeah.
Whereas Killmonger,
there's people that could take his side.
There are, you know. This is, you're going to talk about casting, and the casting was great in this movie. Michael B. Jordan is, you know,
fantastic actor,
except for in obviously Fantastic Four.
Well, that's the script. It's
yes,
not his
definitely.
fault.
Letitia Wright, obviously, again, I think Shuri stole the show in that movie. You know, Bozeman, can't go wrong with. I'll talk a lot about like the lines, like I never freeze.
Yeah, I never freeze.
Yeah, you said it better than I did.
Yeah, well,
and I like the culture. Like the most underrated scene in that movie is probably like the first coronation of him, right? The first challenge, and how they take the little riverboats there. How he takes away the power of the Black Panther. He has to fight M'Baku. Like it's such a good scene on how like everyone has a chance to challenge for the throne.
And he's not powered up; he's depowered too.
It's a fair fight, and I'm very much looking forward to Black Panther too. And if there is no Steve Rogers in the MCU moving forward, I hope T'Challa takes on the mantle of the leader of the Avengers.
Yeah. Well, I hope Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's not a leader.
But he's young.
Not ready. All right, my number 9 movie is the OG Iron Man. And you know what? You said it. You said it best, man. When the Marvel Cinematic Universe was starting, all of their A-list characters they didn't own. They didn't own Spider-Man. They didn't own the X-Men. They had a bunch of B-listers. And they took a shot with Iron Man. They took a shot with Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr., if people forget this, but going into 2008, he was coming off a lot of problems. He was in jail for drugs. He was banned from Japan. He had a lot of things that were going not his way. Marvel took a chance on him. They were supposed to hire like 3 other actors, and they're like, no, we're going to go with Robert Downey Jr. He got paid like I'm not going to say minimum wage, but pretty close to minimum wage to be in this movie too, because he wasn't trustworthy. And he elevated that character, that B-list superhero, to an A-lister. And they do that to a lot of the movies, but this is the first time they do it. You talk about the end of the end of the credit scene, but it just rewatching Iron Man, just watch how far Tony Stark has come. Most of the MCU movies, they have some Stark reference or some importance to Tony Stark. And you really, in every other movie, pretty much in the MCU, you need to watch all of the movies to see, not this one. This one stands alone. Obviously, it's the first one, but it ends like it stands alone too, right? Like it doesn't need another movie.
Yeah.
Great plot, great character development. It defines the MCU.
It starts the magic formula.
And the magic formula, and we're going to talk about something I'll talk about throughout this top 10 list is Stark's legacy. And obviously we talk about great lines. That's how America does it. That's how Dad did it. That's how America does it. And it's worked out pretty well so far. Or maybe my personal favorite. You've been called the Da Vinci of our times. How do you respond to that? That's ridiculous. I don't paint. So that's my number 9 movie.
Okay. Perfect.
And these are my favorite. These aren't what I think the best are. Let's clarify this. These aren't what I think the best 10 movies are. These are my personal favorite 10 movies.
Fair enough. All right. My number 9 this is pretty funny. It's Black Panther. So we
great minds, man.
So I second everything Fuchs just said about Black Panther. This is very great. Like for us, there's not a lot of good black superheroes, right? And sometimes they take a character and just change the character to be black, right?
That's absolutely
right. This Black Panther, he is the OG, one of the OG characters, right? It does a lot. The thing I like about the MCU is they take characters that are already original and just make them great, right? Black Panther, I always thought he was cool. The way they just had, he's like a mixture of Bruce Wayne and Doctor Doom. The fact that he has his own country like Doctor Doom does, and then he's super rich like Bruce Wayne and an expert in all types of combat, right? The way the characters were portrayed, the music, just the following it gathered, people just were really excited to do this, to watch this, not do this, and it's just. I love this movie. It was one of my top favorites. When I saw it, I'm like, wow, this is one of the good ones.
It made more money in the U.S. than Infinity War.
Wow.
Not worldwide, but in the U.S.
Wow, that's crazy.
Granted, it came out in February, which
that helps it a lot.
It,
all right.
Your number 8.
My number 8 is Avengers: Age of Ultron. So, this one, the villain's great in this, and not because of James Spade. I just like the attitude that Ultron had, right? It's like a baby. He talked like a baby sometimes, but he had crazy expectations, right? This is Tony Stark. He gets scared. He kind of has a little bit of post-traumatic stress. He has a vision. He wants to protect the world. So what does he do? He tries to create an ultimate AI to defend the world from whatever dangers happen, and it turns out to backfire. The Avengers have to all work together to stop Ultron. This is a great. I like this because it kind of sets up the team's chemistry. We're starting to get to know everyone better, because in the first Avengers, they weren't really a team yet, and there weren't one cohesive unit. This one, it shows them as one cohesive unit. They work together. It sets up a lot of things that are about to happen that are come out in the MCU. It's one of the pivotal points in the MCU, I would say. One of these movies, right? So another thing, introduces Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, shows a little bit of a backstory to Scarlet Witch. The only thing I have to knock it for is the relationship between Hulk and Scarlet Witch, but that's about it. But other than that, a great movie. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Love James Spade as Ultron, and just love the character interactions. This is what I'm starting to see. Oh yes, the interactions between the characters are great. That's what I really love the MCU movies for. It's not even just like the action, which the action's great, but it's the interaction between all the characters, and this is one of the movies that starts it off very well for me.
My number 8 movie is Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. The 10th movie in the MCU. I really criticized Marvel for this movie. I really did. Before watching it, when I heard that they were making this movie, I'm like, do you think we're stupid? We're going to go watch any movie you make? Really? You're making a movie about a group that I hadn't even heard of? And really, had anyone who wasn't really comic book geek heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy? Yeah, well,
You ate your words,
I
didn't
think
you?
both of us believed this movie was going to be the first flop, though. I think both of us talked about this being the first flop. Mm-hmm. And I'll be very honest with you, this is the last time I ever criticized Marvel or pre-criticized Marvel and in the MCU. Mm-hmm. Because boy was I wrong. To me, in a lot of ways, this is a defining movie in the MCU. Not because of, the action sequences or some of the characters. We saw them take Iron Man and Hulk and Thor and Cap, B-list heroes, and elevate them. This time, they took some D-listers and made them B-listers.
I'd say kind of A-listers now.
They might be. Some of them. I think Rocket, Nebula, and we both talked in our podcast last week. Nebula, I love Nebula. Nebula's high. Nebula went from I could care less about her to maybe somewhere in the top 15 characters in the MCU.
I like her a lot more than Black Widow, so that's saying something.
No, me too. And I'm a big fan of Karen Gillan anyway from the Doctor Who days, but she's fantastic. They took D-listers and made something phenomenal. This is where I really started to believe that Marvel could do no wrong. This is where I became the fanboy that you call me. It's really Guardians, and it goes to everything. The plot is great. This is the first movie we actually see Thanos.
Yeah,
the real Thanos, the Josh Brolin Thanos. Mm-hmm. The music that was put in this movie, the not just the score but the songs, fantastic. The character development, the Gamora and Quill thing, Rocket, which was fantastic. And the group is so well balanced between the humor, between the powers that each of them have, between the skills that they provide, between the toughness. The jail sequence was brilliant. And some of the dialogue, like Drax, where Quill says something like an idiom,
a metaphor,
and Rocket's like, nothing. This guy doesn't understand metaphors. They'll go right over his head. And Drax is like, nothing goes over my head.
I would catch it because I'm faster.
And Rocket's hilarious. The scene where he's like, when they're in the jail sequence and he's telling everything he needs, and he's like, Quill, go get. I need that leg. Go get the leg. And he gets the leg. I didn't actually need it. I just wanted to see him without a leg. So good. And then obviously Quill. Some of his scenes, like Chris Pratt is again a
That launched
casting.
Chris Pratt career too, right?
Well, his movie career, right?
Yeah.
Like he was almost an out of work actor. People forget about this. Like he was doing Parks and Rec, but like he couldn't make it in film. Like he was in Zero Dark 30. He'd been in some like romantic movies, but this is the breakout film. This is before Jurassic World. So there was nothing bad about this movie. Like all 10 of my movies are 10 out of 10s, and this is no different. My number 7 movie is Age of Ultron.
Wow.
And I'm going to tell you, I think this movie gets a bad rap. I think people shit on this movie way too much. I think this movie, especially on the rewatch, and if you all go rewatch the 11th movie of the MCU, you will see that this is a movie that really defines a lot of what's going to happen. And in this podcast, you're going to start seeing a pattern for me at this point in the list. But Age of Ultron has some really great sequences. You know, I like the party sequence at the beginning. Xavier talks a lot about the interactions of these characters, and I couldn't agree more. When they're all trying to pick up that hammer, oh my god! And when Cap moves it a little bit, and Thor just looks like, oh, what?
Yeah, his eyebrow.
It's not supposed to move. And like just that, all of the sequences we see between them, you know, they become friends in a lot of ways, right? In Avengers, they had never met each other. They didn't even like each other. They fought each other, some of them. But this is the scene where they become friends. You know, the Hulkbuster armor in action, brilliant. You know, the whole Sokovia sequence, really good. And what Xavier says is this movie sets up so much. You know, we could talk about Ragnarok with Hulk leaving at the end of this movie, and he's going to be seen again in Ragnarok. You know, we talk about Civil War with the Sokovia Accords. But perhaps this movie defines or helps define the legacy that I was talking about with Tony Stark, right? Stark becomes Iron Man in the original Iron Man to start a new mission to create a legacy of non-destruction, right? The legacy, we're not building weapons anymore. We're going to be all about power and energy. Yeah. Well, after Avengers and seeing aliens attack, he wants a new legacy. He wants a shield around the planet. That's what this movie's about. And he accidentally creates Ultron. Well, this legacy is going to lead to Sokovia falling on the planet, which leads to the Sokovia Accords, which leads him to take the side of General Ross by saying, hey, you're right. We need oversight. The Tony Stark in Iron Man 1 wouldn't want oversight. No. The Tony Stark in Iron Man 2 laughed at the government. Yeah. But this Tony Stark cares about his legacy now. Who takes the side of Ross and pushes him away from Captain America, which leads to, you know, number 6. And the character Ultron's brilliant. Yeah. Oh my God, I've got no strings, right? Like the Pinocchio references.
There are no strings on me.
Right? So good. And he's creepy and he's like a child.
He has the great one-liners, right?
Absolutely. Oh, so good. But his perceptions of people, right? Yeah. And what humans are and all of that.
He's like, you want the world to, you want peace, but you don't want to change. Yes. Yeah. He's like, I'm the cure for humanity, right?
But even like the scene where like he's trying to get the vibranium, right?
Yeah, and he gets compared to Stark.
He gets compared to Stark, so he grabs his arm and he cuts it off. He's like, right? "Oh, that looks like it hurts."
I just don't know why you'd compare me to Stark.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. Like he just doesn't realize his strength in some ways. It's really well done. All right, that's my 7. What's your number 7?
My number 7 is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Are we copying each other's notes here?
I think we're just switching.
All right, we're gonna be different after because I have a pattern coming now.
Yeah, I know what your pattern is. We're definitely gonna be different after this. So Guardians of the Galaxy. Me, like I'm a comic guy. I didn't care for the Guardians of the Galaxy. This movie, I didn't think it was gonna be a dud, but I didn't care about it. I was like, whatever, I'll go watch this.
You didn't think it was? You thought it wasn't gonna make money. You thought this would be their first like flop at the box office.
Yeah, it might be a flop, right? But this, wow, I was wrong. I had to eat my words. This movie was great. The introduction, I just loved it. The magic of the movie. This is one of those movies. It's funny, like a lot of the movies that I have on my list are all movies I watched again and again. Like I've watched these movies at least 3 times each. Age of Ultron a lot. I really liked Age of where everyone hated it, I loved Age of Ultron.
I did.
So but we're on Guardians of the Galaxy here. But yeah, just the interactions between. I didn't know much about Quill, Gamora. We had our big introduction of Thanos. Ronan, the Accuser, was in it. He was a great villain. And we also have like one of the Infinity Stones. One of what Thanos is really after. And oh look, we stopped Thanos' plan. We're the best, right? We think we're good. My number 6 is Thor Ragnarok. So this one, this movie is great, right? It's showing Thor coming to terms with. He thinks, oh, I'm everything. Kind of feels like he's nothing without his hammer, right? He's trying to figure out what's going on. It's starting to be a lot more humorous. This is where we're starting to see the nice little buddy, kind of like a buddy, not like Captain Marvel buddy cop, but like kind of like a nice side character. This is what I'm more excited for, is just seeing more side characters like Hulk and Thor together, working together to
He's a
solve a
friend
common
from
problem,
work.
right? Or hopefully the next Black Widow movie has someone like Hawkeye in it. Kind of that dynamic. I kind of want now with my movies, I want to see more features from other type of characters, right? The next type of movies you're gonna notice the theme in mine is relationships between characters. Now this is the relationship building. So I was okay. Origin stories are great. We're introduced. Now we have the foundation to have these relationships built and see how these characters interact with each other and then see them handle certain situations, right? And not gonna lie, I love the ending of Thor, right? Some people don't. I'm okay with what happens. Some people aren't, and it kind of sets. And the ending is the beginning to one of the best movies ever.
It's funny that you said that because like initially I was one of those people, right? I'm like, I don't know how I feel about Asgard getting destroyed, but they do a good job with it as we see in Endgame,
Mhm.
right? Like at the time it's like but when you rewatch it now that you know where they're going, right? And
Yeah.
that's the beauty of the MCU, right? They get chance to explain where they're going. So you have to
Hmm.
give them the benefit of the doubt. Do your rewatches. I challenged you last week to rewatch Iron Man 2. Did you?
No.
I'm telling you, if you rewatch, it's
I might
not
I might rewatch it now though. I might give it a rewatch.
these movies. There are things in it that just change your perceptions
Hmm.
because of where it goes. Um, so my number 6 movie is Captain America: Civil War. There is no movie in the MCU that I was more afraid to come out than Captain America: Civil War. And what scared me more about it was the movie that came out 3 months earlier that scared the bejesus out of me about this movie. You know what movie I'm talking about? It was supposed to come out on the same date as Captain America.
Batman vs Superman.
Batman versus Superman. Superheroes that are supposed to be on the same side fighting each other. And I'm like, this is not smart. This is dangerous. You can't have superheroes fight each other that are on the same team. What's the point? This was, in theory, this movie was supposed to be a flop for me, even though it has my boy Cap on the title. But you know what? They made it make so much sense. They made it work. And not only did it work, it was brilliant. It was written so well. Cap versus Stark. But if you really look at it, it's really everyone versus Stark. Because who's on team? Who's really on Team Iron Man? Who's really on Team Stark? Black Widow. At the end of the movie, she switches sides because she knows Stark's wrong. T'Challa, he's only on Stark's side because he thinks that Bucky killed his dad, and in the end, he not only changes sides, he welcomes Captain America and Bucky, two of the only people into Wakanda ever that are welcomed in that are not from Wakanda. And you've got Rhodey. Well, he's a soldier. Of course he's going to be on his side. Of course he's going to be on a general side. And Vision, we don't get really a side story. But that's the thing with this movie, right? Like, oh, and Spider-Man. And Spider-Man 2, Stark's like a father figure to him. He's just trying to impress Stark. If you really look at the character Spider-Man and what he says to Stark when they're talking, he's basically fighting against bullies. Does that sound familiar, Xavier? X, who does that sound like?
I don't know. Some weirdo.
named Captain America. So really, like this is Cap's movie. Everyone's on his side. Even freaking Tony Stark switches sides in the end because Cap was right. But this goes back to what I was saying about Age of Ultron. The legacy. Sokovia broke Stark. He broke his confidence. It broke his faith in himself. And even that airport sequence when they actually do fight each other, they're not fighting each other.
That's one of the best fight
They're
scenes.
playing with each other. Even when Hawkeye and Black Widow are fighting, it's like we're still friends, right?
I don't know if they were playing. I mean,
He
someone
says
lost
depends on
their legs
Well, yeah,
for
but
the rest of their life.
we'll talk. I'll talk about that in a second. But like when those two are fighting each other, it's like we're still friends, right? Depends on how hard you hit me. And then you have Scarlet Witch like push Black Widow away, says you're pulling your punches. Like it, even the dialogue throughout it is kind of humorous. And you talk about the scene where yes, Rhodey gets seriously hurt, but break down the scene for a second. Vision gets distracted by Scarlet Witch, so he doesn't really take a look at what he's doing. And the moment War Machine gets hit, Rhodey gets hit, Falcon and Stark, who are both chasing after each other, stop what they're doing and go right after Rhodey to try to help him. Mm-hmm. There was no desire, there was no malice in this scene. Even as they're running towards each other, it's like they're not going to back down. What are we doing? Like they keep asking themselves this question the entire time. What are we doing? You know, this movie's not about a villain. It's not. It's about the destruction internally of a team. And that scene that Captain America and Iron Man fight each other, again, it makes sense because Stark's emotional about his parents dying.
His parents being killed.
Cap. He killed my mom. Mm-hmm. It makes sense. It makes so much sense. And, you know, it also, as I said earlier in this podcast, is why I think Cap couldn't pick up Mjolnir, because he knew this was coming eventually. He knew Bucky was going to be back in the fold. He knew this was going to come out. And once this happened, a lift off his shoulders. You know, and just for the record, I'm totally on Team Cap side. Team Cap in this movie.
Obviously, we all know your Team Cap.
The world's the world's ungrateful to the superheroes. All they do is save their asses over and over again, and they're not grateful. Come on, world.
Well, yeah, they're like,
all right,
we got it.
My number 5 movie, Avengers Endgame. You're surprised by that, aren't you? You thought that was gonna be higher on my list.
Yeah, because you're a Cap fan, so whatever.
But isn't there a better movie? What movie is better for Cap than this movie? He's got more screen time in this movie than any other Avenger.
Yeah, but
he has more.
Yeah, but the other movies are about Cap, so
this movie is about Cap. It's all.
Yeah,
but
Cap's the other two. I know what's up next. The first Avengers and Winter Soldier Avengers. I know you'd list.
I'm not gonna spend too much time on Endgame. You watch our podcast last week. You'll hear me praise this movie over and over again. But it's just a fulfilling ending to this Infinity War saga. We have epic scenes, the entrances, the battle sequences. It's probably the best time travel movie I've ever seen that isn't just not like a Back to the Future. It's just about time traveling, but like that a serious movie that has time travel as a tool. We see great character development over the first hour. I love the callbacks to all the other scenes. It's a great movie. I love it. And Cap picks up Mjolnir. So, I mean, that is my favorite. That might be my favorite scene in the entire universe. So, let's just say that. Okay. Xavier, what's your number 5 movie?
My number 5 is the first Avengers. Wow, look at this guy. Eh? He's a little...
No, that's it. But they're all... At this point, we're really just... They're all fantastic. Mm-hmm. But go ahead.
So yeah, the first Avengers. I love these. This is the first time they're all interacting. It's very interesting to me. Obviously, the scenes are iconic. It's one of... this is the big one. This is the one I was excited for. Like, when I first heard, I'm like, oh my god, they're making an Avengers movie, right? I didn't know what I was going to think. But I was very happy, very pleased with the sequence. They all worked together to stop one goal. These guys hated each other, didn't know how to work together. And it's just, you know, they kind of used the, spoiler alert, Coulson's death brings everyone together to go fight and stop Loki. Obviously, there's great lines in the movie. Iron Man making fun of Thor when he first appears. And then it's just I don't know how to. One of the best, funniest scenes I think is he's like, "You do not." Loki's talking to Hulk, and he's like, "You don't know me. I'm a god." And then the Hulk smashes him multiple times, and then he just walks away, puny god.
Call back to Ragnarok when Thor gets it. It's like, that's how. Yes!
That's how that feels. And then he sits down. All right. And my number 4 movie is Spider-Man. Oh my god, I said Spider-Man Far From Home. That's not, I meant Spider-Man Homecoming. That movie's not out yet.
I'm surprised. I thought that was going to be your number 3 movie.
Wow. Yeah, you're shocking. So Spider-Man Homecoming, wow. All I have to say, great. Finally a good Spider-Man, like a really good Spider-Man movie. Vulture was great. Michael Keaton played the Vulture perfectly. I'm not gonna lie, the comic book version of the Vulture is really lame, so I'm glad they kind of upped it up. Sometimes I'm okay with changes to the comics, right? Some people aren't. I'm okay with it because it's an old man in a flying suit that gets beat the crap out of by a man with superpowers. So obviously, this one makes a lot more sense, right? All the technology. I love how a lot of the technology is used from the invasion that people have stole. Um, this one's about Spider-Man understanding what it feels like to be a hero. And then obviously we're not going to forget Tony Stark playing the father figure and being an inspiration for Peter. And then at the end he realizes I don't need the suit to be powerful. It's me. That's what it helps out the people, right? And yeah, that's all I have to say about Homecoming.
My number 4 movie is Captain America Winter Soldier.
Wow, not first Avenger. That's
Uh,
interesting.
it's the ninth movie in the sequence of movies. It's a political thriller, and we kind of talked earlier in this podcast about my like of you know politics.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about Captain America living, coming to terms with being in the 2010s. The first scene is brilliant with Falcon on your left,
Mm-hmm.
on your left. Don't say it on your left. He goes into the Smithsonian and sees his own kind of exhibit. He gets to see Peggy Carter again. There's a lot of closure for him, right? There's a lot of this. We see it in the first Avengers movies, like a man at a time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's his coming to terms, like that first sequence with him like taking out the entire ship by himself, jumping out of the plane, and he's like, did he jump without a chute? Yep. Just brilliant. I like the relationship he has with Black Widow. The scene where it's like, is that your first kiss since the 1940s?
Exactly.
That bad?
It was that bad. That was funny. That was going to be one of the. I was going to use that as the MCU quote thing.
Oh, you would have gotten that in a heartbeat. I love that quote. You have the whole Fury getting shot and figuring out that Hydra has infested Shield. I loved it. We get the character, the destruction of Shield, which again, if you had asked me when this movie came out, I would have said the same thing about Asgard. What? You can't get rid of Shield. What are they gonna do now?
Well, they made
that
it
was
work.
before Guardians of the Galaxy when I was questioning things that the MCU did and didn't have faith in them. It turned out well. I thought this was a mistake before. I thought they were critical. Nope, they weren't. The Avengers came up and everything worked out for the best. The character development of Captain America and Black Widow and Bucky, who returns in this movie, it was just a great movie. And again, I really like that speech that I gave you that you said that you don't even remember from Winter Soldier. Is probably one of my favorite speeches. Just a motivating speech. And again, we see it in Endgame, right? When he's giving that speech, whatever it takes, and Rocket's like, "That's pretty good."
He's good at
that.
And
Ant-Man's like, "Yeah, right. He's really good."
Ant-Man's the fanboy.
I know.
Ant-Man's you.
I am. You know what? I can live with that. I would. That's America's ass. All right.
Yeah.
All right,
If you're in.
Have you found out my thing yet? So I guess it's my turn again for number 3. My number 3 movie is the best movie in the MCU, just not my favorite movie in the MCU. It is Infinity War. Listen, this is not the best movies. Unquestionably, Infinity War is one of the greatest movies of all time. Unquestionably, it's a perfect movie, and I don't throw that word around often. I only throw it around with freaking Infinity War.
Throws it around often.
This is the movie of the decade. Forget the movie of the year. It's the movie of the decade. The movie of the century so far. There's no movie better in 2000 or from 2000 to 2019 than Infinity War.
Wow.
But it's not my favorite movie. You can appreciate a movie and not it be your favorite, right?
Yeah.
And this movie is the MCU's best. It's nonstop action from start to finish. You're at the edge of your seat the entire time. There's no time to breathe. And what an ending. If that movie could have been the ending of the MCU, and it would have been brilliant. I would have hated it, but it would have been brilliant. Why isn't it my favorite? Because there's an Avengers movie I like more.
Mm-hmm.
And there's another movie I like more.
Yeah, I know the two movies for you. They're so obvious.
But this is the best. It's a fantastic movie. At this time, like it was hard. These top five, like when I had to put Endgame at number 5, I'm like, oh my god, how is Endgame number 5? I was like, can I put Endgame and Infinity War together to make one movie? Then I can put it number 1, and I can add another movie in here.
I was thinking of that, doing the same thing.
Cause like it was hard. All right, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is Captain America: Civil War. Now, the next couple, like the last 3 movies, are the comic fanboy in me. So this one, a lot of people criticized, a lot of comic fans criticized it because they're like, this didn't follow the Civil War comics at all. This is barely followed. But there's certain things in movies. There'd be way too much characters, and if you want to give every character some scenes and some closure and some personality, it's going to be 3 hours, like a certain other movie that we have that's not named, right? So they have to work with what they got. And what they did was very well, right? They made a believable character who's questionable. That Cap, he defends. He says, he's like, I become a little like that little boy that was 16 whenever he hears his best friend's name, right? That's his best friend. So he has his back, right? And he knows he's not a bad person. So he's trying to make him become a better person, right? Tony Stark, he talked about his legacy. He wants to fix the world. He's like, what we're doing, he feels defeated, like he's failed the world, right? He had that conversation with that lady. So a lot of things, and plus the final airport scene, I think that might be the second best fight scene in all of the MCU. The fight sequence, in my honest opinion. It's just great. And this is the introduction of Spider-Man. And I was just 2 great character introductions. Black Panther and Spider-Man. They were great, fantastic. And the villain. The villain was brilliant in this, right? He didn't have any superpowers, but he had a determination to turn the Avengers against one another, because his family was killed in the Sokovia. A great movie. All right. And my number 2, Avengers: Infinity War.
Recency bias or what?
It's no recency
Not this
bias.
one. Not this one.
I know what you think. My number 1's a recency bias. Listen.
Go ahead. Tell me about Infinity War.
So Avengers: Infinity War. Great movie. Thanos. What a villain. I don't think there's a better villain in the MCU that is better than Thanos.
People
right?
walked out of the theaters being like, I agree with Thanos.
Yeah, you know what? He's not doing a bad thing. Just his demeanor. They did a really good job. Like, some of the villains are really good, and Thanos is very memorable, right? You can't argue with him. He wants to. It's funny that people say whatever it takes, but Thanos is the one that invented whatever it takes, right? that's him. You'll see. I'll tell you more. I'll tell more when I get the number 1. But just the way that he portrays himself, right? Thanos gets the most airtime, so you get to understand where he comes from. That's what I love about the MCU. They set up the villain more about this one. Thanos gets, like in Endgame, how much screen time does Thanos get? Not a lot, because we already know about him. We know everything we need to know from this movie, right? This is what makes those two movies. I think both those two movies combined, like I agree with you, might be the perfect two movies I've ever seen in my life. And just the whole final battle and then the end, just the snap. I think that's probably the most. That's one of the things that's going to be talked about for years. It's like when, spoiler alert for Empire Strikes Back, when we find out Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father the whole time. That's something that's going to be talked about for years to come. And it'll be forever cemented into the legacy of film. And that's all I have to say.
My number 2 movie is Captain America: First Avenger. And look, if we're ranking the top 10 best, maybe it's not on the top 10. But I'm biased. Cap's my boy. I know I'm wearing a Thor t-shirt today, but Cap's my boy.
Yeah.
And this is the birth of Captain America. And moreover than that, like, I'm a history person, right? This is a World War II movie that deals with, Mr. Moral himself, Mr. Boring himself, Mr. Goody Two Shoes himself. And you know what? I'm okay with that. We get to see a young Howard Stark, and they got Captain America right. People forget this is the fourth movie in the MCU.
Yeah, I
Fifth
remember
movie in the
when
MCU?
Chris Evans was casted as Steve Rogers.
Oh my God, people were horrified by this.
Yeah.
This was, you want to talk news? This was big news, and I'm like, maybe he's not. I don't think he was muscular enough, right? Because
Yeah.
the skinny boy
'Cause
they
of,
played Johnny Storm.
Yeah.
But then I watched The Losers before, and I'm like, nah, he's a tank. He has that charisma to be Captain America.
Yeah.
But my worry wasn't even about that. I just watched Superman Returns a couple years earlier, and I almost puked watching that movie. Like, I'm not. You think I'm joking? I'm not joking. I was disgusted, and I'm like, maybe we live in a world where we live in this dark world, Dark Knight movies, all of this and that. Maybe they won't make him good. Maybe they'll make him a little bit edgier. Maybe they'll make him a little bit darker. And they kept him right. And the Red Skull, you talk about Thanos. Yeah, Thanos is probably the best villain because he's been in so many movies. But the best villain in only one movie, I'm gonna give that to Red Skull. And I think he's part. No, you don't like him?
No, he's great. He's one of the top villains, though.
I think he is. He's fantastic.
I think Vulture's better. That's just me.
Yeah, that's fair. You're Spidey. You got your bias to Spidey. I love the Star Spangled Man song. I love that song. I love the propaganda element to it. I love some of the action sequence in World War II. Some of the dialogue is fantastic. I'm just a kid from Brooklyn, right? I could do this all day. I know you can. And then, of course, remember, don't be a good soldier. Be a good man. The defining characteristic of the MCU Captain America is that line. And that is just one of the many reasons why Captain America First Avenger is just a heartfelt movie that's got some history that has some history with it, and just a great character that's really on his own, right? Every other Captain America movie, he's never on his own. Captain America 2, he's got Black Widow and Fury and Shield with him, and in Civil War, it's everybody, and then all three Avengers movies, it's everyone. This is his only movie, which is kind of the reason why I have it so high, right? In this movie, I get to enjoy Cap. I get to geek out to my boy.
Yeah.
And Peggy Carter, who plays an integral role in this franchise, I like the character. And Tommy Lee Jones, hilarious. The best line is, "You don't win war with size; you win war with guts." He throws the grenade in, and it's not the toughness. Mm-hmm. It's not the big guy that jumps on this grenade. It's the little puny guy, Steve Rogers, who jumps on that grenade.
Mm-hmm.
He hates bullies, and I hate bullies, and I love him for it. My number one movie. You haven't noticed so far, the last 6 movies I've given from 7 to 2 are all feature Captain America.
Yeah,
and my number one movie is The Avengers. Yes, that is my pattern. I was shocked by this movie. This movie is unprecedented. We've not seen a mashup movie with this many heroes ever. We've seen villains with a lot of them, but never heroes. It's always one person. And not only do they have 6 heroes in this movie, they Josh Whedon's writing is so brilliant that he gives them all equal time. He doesn't make this Stark's movie, he doesn't make this Cap's movie or Thor's movie. He allows every character to have their moments. And this sets up all the other mashup movies. Right? This isn't going to be a two-person show. This is going to be everyone's show. And they pick 6 heroes that balance each other well. We have the 2 OP guys in Hulk and Thor, the 2 middle power guys in Iron Man and Cap, and then the 2 weaker guys in Hawkeye and Black Widow to kind of offset each other. So there's not too powerful, too weak, too everything. It's a little bit of everything. The humor, the working together, the fact that they don't like each other at first, that they have to overcome things. Again, Stark and Thor, that fight in the woods, Shakespeare in the Park, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love how the infighting is and how they're all trying to be the macho guy because they're all the macho guy, right?
Yeah.
Thor's the guy, but he has to give up some of it. And that last sequence, when they all get together and Hulk gives his line, or Banner gives his line, "That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry." And he just turns into the Hulk for the first time, doing it on purpose, and takes that flying guy down. And then we get the most iconic scene in the universe, that panoramic shot of all of them. And then Tony Stark tells Captain America, "Call it, Cap," signifying that now we're working as a team. And Cap's the leader. And you tell us what to do. They all put their ego in check to work together, and it paid off. And the lines and the music, obviously the score has been iconic, and it's carried on through all of it.
And it's the first introduction of Thanos. I'm not gonna lie, that smile at the end, that's another iconic scene.
So here's a question for you. You know, you talk about Coulson's death. Sorry, is that the saddest scene in the MCU? Is that the okay?
No.
What do you think is? Is it Stark? Is it Black Widow?
Stark.
Is it Quicksilver? I think it's Coulson. Stark, we knew it was coming. It's sad, but like no one knew that was coming with Coulson. That was out of left field.
I wasn't sad when Coulson died. Stark, I felt the most thing. Coulson,
I feel bad every time I see Coulson. Coulson was great.
Yeah,
and he's a side character too, which I think elevates it. Like, I don't know. I love Coulson. I'm a big Coulson fan. When I saw Coulson again in Captain Marvel, I geeked out. I love me some Phil Coulson.
You like Coulson.
I do.
I don't care for him.
I'm a big Coulson guy. So that's my number one.
My number one is also unprecedented.
It is.
You are right on Avengers Endgame.
I'm calling recency bias, though.
You can say recency bias all you want, but this is everything I waited for in the film. Like, this is... I never thought I would see something like that, something like this ever in my time, right? I didn't think it'd last like 22 movies, and it still wasn't old. Like, no one got sick of it. It got better. Like, that's how I feel.
10 days made the second most money all time.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Not only is it get stale, it's ridiculous.
That final, I know, again, maybe recency bias, but that final fight scene, I just played again and again in my head, where everyone's just like, Cap just sits there, shield's broken. He says in his head, I thought he was going to say, "I can do this all day," when he straps it, but you just hear Falcon in the background. "Cap, on your left." And then everyone just walks in, and then you just then Thanos just looks down, and then everyone's just looking at each other, and then it's the final charge, final battle. Just an amazing fight scene. Everyone's getting closure with their characters, right? It was just beautiful. You just see Thanos take his sword and just go like that, and everyone just charges in, and then it's the final fight. Everyone's running in. See Hulk running with his busted arm. Giant Man. That's just... I just love seeing Giant Man. That Giant Man punch was amazing to me. Just seeing him go up and just punch that giant thing. I'm like, wow. This is it. This is what we waited for Avengers. A fight scene like this. My only complaint is that it wasn't long enough. But not even that. It's just the...
It wasn't. It really wasn't.
Yeah. Even just the homage to all the characters coping with what happened with Infinity War, right? With the events of Infinity War, and the fact that they're like, their first reaction is like, we're gonna find Thanos so he can fix everything, and at then he's like, listen, I knew you guys wanted to do this. I don't want any temptation, so I destroyed it so no one else can do this. He gets killed right away. Totally, I didn't. Out of all the things that would happen, that's something I did not expect at all to happen. I thought, oh, maybe Thanos is gonna be hiding. Maybe I'm like, oh, they're already gonna go see him. They're gonna lose this fight because he's gonna have the Infinity Stone. He's gonna mess him up. But no, he doesn't use it. He just sits there because he's content with what he did, right? And even Thanos knows, like 2000, when they go back in time, 2014 is even content with it. He sees him get killed. He's like, listen, I did what I had to do. Maybe I have to redo it again, right? Just, I don't know. Amazing scene. Avengers Endgame, greatest movie of all time, baby. I said it. Especially Infinity War. Might be better than my Godfather series, which I love.
Man, I'm telling you, I made this hot take last week. If you combine these two movies together, I think it's the best movie ever made.
Yeah.
I think it's better than Godfather. I think it's better than Gone with the Wind. I think it's better than Casablanca. It's recency bias, so I'm not going to make that. I call it a hot take for now.
Yeah.
Ask me again in a year. Ask me in December. Ask me next January when we do our top 10 movies of the decade and top 10 movies of the year. And when we talk about these two movies being 1, 2.
Yeah, it's that's what I think. I think I have recency bias, but then again, I watch Godfather 1 and 2 again and again and again. That's something I watch a lot. I just enjoy.
I've seen it. I've seen Endgame in theaters 3 times now. There's not a moment I get bored.
I'm the same way too.
There's not a moment.
I've seen it twice so far. I need to see what some more.
All right. On that note,
Yeah, I'm
tell us
what
you think. See what movies you would put on your top 10 list of the MCU movies. We know that Cap's going to be on almost all of your lists because he's the best.
He's the only. I think you're the only person that really likes Cap.
A lot of people are. How many Cap movies are on your list?
Like Captain America with him in the title.
Yeah, no, just Captain America.
Yeah, well, he's the main part of the Avengers.
Just
Obviously, he's
saying.
going to be in the list.
I have
nothing to do with it. Yeah, yeah. What's it called? A lot of people are Tony Stark fans.
I know. A lot of my students were Team Iron Man.
Yeah.
I was like, nope, Team Cap. All right. Well, that's it for us this week. Next week on the podcast, we talk about Detective Pikachu, The Hustle, and from the vault, we do Monster Squad. And I think we're going to look at seeing Tolkien as well.
Yeah.
So take a look and see what we got on the podcast next week. There's a lot of good things going on.
All right.
Have a great weekend, guys.
Yeah, take care. Peace out.